All right. Well, we'll get started here. We've got Monty Montgomery with us today from P. Terry's. Really interested to talk about a lot of aspects of your career over the last few years. But I want to jump right in and ask you a question that we've asked a few of the people, and I think you'd have an interesting take, is what's the ROI of design on a restaurant as you see it?
Yeah, no, great question. Absolutely. So, especially for P. Terry's, I mean, it's primarily drive-through focused. So, in order to provide that experience, because they're not having that face-to-face interaction with the crew member, to ensure that quality of service, we elevate the exterior of the building to amplify that just overall drive-through experience. You want the kid to go through the drive-through and be like, "Man, this is cool."
Yeah.
All the way from the building, the lights, the little messages that are through the drive-through to the landscape. I mean, it all has an impact.
Is the plan to kind of keep that program? Because, I mean, anybody that knows Pete Terry's, which everybody in Austin knows Pete Terry's, and I know you guys are expanding kind of outward. You know, as you drive up I-35 or, you know, I go home sometimes on 71 through Bastrop, and they're iconic buildings. I mean, you can't help but notice them. Is the plan to keep kind of doing that, or how are you guys thinking? How are you guys thinking about design going forward?
Sure. No, so a few years back, we developed kind of a toolkit of prototypes. I mean, obviously 1 through 14, stands 1 through 14 were all different. And that's just not really feasible to expand. That's really whenever we started the expansion approach, how we were going to go forward. You know, we're in the two markets really surrounding Austin area, as well as San Antonio. And it's a unique building, and it's our billboard, right? I mean, like you stated, I mean, you go down 35, and it's just, you see several of them. And we want it to catch your eye, just like you described. So we're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going forward, it develops kind of a challenge because you have this prototype, right? You have the box, you have the awning, so to speak. It's not necessarily a square box, but you have your starting point, and you just try to start kind of messing with the finishes. You have the storefront that's going to go all the way up. If it sits on stone, does it sit on the grade? To provide that uniqueness, so you're not seeing the cookie cutter P. Terry's as you go down.
Yeah.
You know, you've got, you mentioned Bastrop, so that's a drive-through only. It's kind of a flower awning, architectural side element that you see. With that, and that's, you know, you have your drive-through only models and you have your dine-in models, and it's kind of a hub and spoke approach. So you go ahead and you give the full package, the full P. Terry's package to the guest by providing that dine-in location with double drive-through. So you have all those options, and then as that market develops and they get their footing, you kind of bring in the backup stands. So try to keep them, you know, under 5 miles from each other, but no more than 3. You know, you want to keep that buffer of 3 miles in between, because then you just start cannibalizing yourself, right? Yeah. So from an operational standpoint. So then we bring in our drive-through only concept, or our drive-through only model, to where it's just kind of the easy in and out, which on 71 through Bastrop, you've got that easy off. You got to get through one light, and then you can pull in, quickly get off, get back on the highway, and be along your way.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's always interesting because, especially when you start to scale, you know, the way, as you said, that 1 through 14, things are different, and you're trying to understand what priorities are, so to speak, and the testing the, I guess, the formula, right? What is back of the house? What are the things that we cannot manipulate? What are those things that make us create revenue in a way that we need to? And then what are those things that are experiential, whether it be drive-through or sitting or lighting or whatever it is? But it was interesting working with Jeremy and Torchy's, because as they scaled, things got really, really tight. And I say formulaic because we knew exactly what the operations needed to be, the back of house needed to be, so we could really focus on what their priority was based on experience.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool, right, from a designer perspective, because that allows us to really focus that intent. And it looks like, you know, y'all do that as well, and they are iconic from the street. They're all different.
Yeah.
And that's something I never thought about too, right? Is what is impactful is that drive-through experience, which y'all nailed on all of them, that I've been through, and how to do that differently probably is quite the task.
It is,
Right.
yeah. And it's just so gratifying too. Going. I just thought of a memory of that. A good friend who is an architect that shares. I've been with P. Terry's for P. Terry's for 8 years. I did business with them 3 years prior, doing their kitchen design and layout and providing their kitchen equipment. His 6-year-old at the time would go through, and I mean, he'd have to get his French fries and his cookie, and he goes through the Burnett location, and he has that. You go through the awning that goes over the drive-through, and you see these boxed out lighting and the light cove, the little landscape island, and for it to reach that young of a crowd, I mean, that speaks loudly. So
What are some of the must-haves now? Because again, talking about scaling, it is kind of a push and pull, right? When you've got a concept that has worked at 1 to 14 units, but now as you think about scaling and going a little bit faster, you do have to kind of give up on some stuff, right? What are you holding on to? It's like, I don't care where we go, we're going to have this as part of the element of the build or the design or what have you. Outside of, I mean, obviously the kitchen is the kitchen, and that's the engine. But from a design guest experience standpoint, like what's the like? Hey, we're going to hold on to this at all costs.
Yeah, to dive into the kitchen and then work our way out, see if I can hit all those points. So we basically, the drive-through only is going to be 2 cook lines, your grill and your fryer. That supports your double drive-through, and then so you want to keep everything pretty much the same, because as we grow, we want to be nimble to where we can allow a crew member from here, or if we have to shift a management level crew member, we want them to not take a long time to adjust. They don't need to pivot and figure out, okay, let me retrain myself. It's like, okay, well, this sink's here, this grill's here, and here's burger. Got to get out the window. So we take that and then we add the dine-in element. So we have to add another line. So you got online ordering, you got dine-in that you have to serve. So the back of the house, we try to keep that pretty much, replicate that over and over again. As you kind of expand out from there, the Terrys are really big on sustainable material, which has been challenging of late, with the pricing of everything. So we use all natural materials, Western red cedar, Oklahoma redstone, real quarried stone. We use stucco, 3-coat trowel, smooth trowel, stucco application. And then you come to the finishes on that. The finishing specs are going to be, your clear sealer, your P. Terry's green, or your red columns. Those 3 are going to be a must. And then it comes to the overall design element of the building, which is where you can really start cutting costs, right? You can go to a wood structure and build that box, literally just 4 straight vertical walls, but you completely lose the P. Terry's image. You lose that billboard moment. You lose that experience from the guest perspective. So we continue with the structural steel base, skeleton of the system to develop those linear lines and those loud moments and those details. So I think that has been a challenge to ensure that we are able to continue to replicate that portion of the brand. And even more so, I mean, Austin's been fantastic, right? It was the perfect place to start P. Terry's because there's no HOA, there's no ARC, like our Architectural Review Committee. So you're not having to overcome all these challenges in the early stages. We're going to do a P. Terry's. They're like, sweet. Then you dive into the permitting process.
Speaking of the ARCs, have you started running into that now?
So we
how are you dealing with that?
I learned the hard way that it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So our second San Antonio location in the Stone Oak Takara development on North 281 has a POA. So POA, Architectural Review Committee, hand in hand. It stated that, and I submitted it, and it kind of went silent, and no news is good news sometimes, except for
Mhm.
here. And
Yeah.
so we went through all the way through permitting, and then we went to go start construction, and red flag went off, and they were like, "Hey, what's going on? We here's all these check boxes you got to do before you start doing this." I'm like, "I'm the city of San Antonio. I got a permit. What
Yeah.
else do I got to do?" And so come to find out, there was a number of architectural side elements that were not going to be approved. We've partnered with Michael Shue Office of Architecture now for 16 of the 19 years that we've
Yeah.
been at
Mhm.
this, and so they're always on board. They're great partners,
Yeah.
So we tweaked it as minimal as we could. It extended the build out process significantly, which was also shortly after the pandemic, and I guess this was 21 that we started construction on that one. So there was a lot of things that we had to get back on track in order to maintain.
Would you have to
progress.
compromise from a design standpoint?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're familiar with some of the buildings, you have this red kickoff awning of, like Lake Creek, Pflugerville, Georgetown, all have that kind of that moment that protects the runner that's going and service in the second lane, as well as the guests. When they roll their window down, it's raining, they still got to come through and get their burger. So we put a little awning there. They didn't approve of that, so. We kind of went big, and we just extended the whole roof. So it went from a 100 square foot awning to an additional, just south of 1,000 square foot
Oh,
of
wow.
stucco and
Okay.
electrical and steel that we added to
So
it.
here you
So
go.
we that's how important it is to uphold the brand image.
Yeah.
We don't want to jeopardize by, okay, we'll just lose that and we'll be fine with it. It's like, no, it has to still be on par.
Yeah. Well, they're also all subjective, so it's almost a learning lesson each one you get into, those architectural development committees.
Yeah, there's a lot of master plan developments that we're looking at, because Houston's our third market that we're going into. We just started construction a little over 2 weeks ago in our first Houston market.
Where at?
It's going to be on the southwest side, Richmond. Really,
Yep.
it's the greater Houston area.
Yeah.
But so Richmond will be the first one, and you with development, you can't pick one and finish that one, go on to the
Yeah.
next one. I
Yeah.
mean, these things take 18 months minimum, because we do the ground leases, ground up, vertical builds, so standalone buildings. So it takes a lot of time to get through the lease negotiations and do your due diligence and go through the permitting process. The first one, thankfully, it did not have to go through a strenuous review process within that community. The second one, it had a little bit more of a handcuff approach than these next two. The folks are great, really, really great to work with. I think, I'm not going to say it's me, but the way that P. Terry's operates, just the culture expands to our partners, as our vendors. We call them partners because they really are partners. We can't have this headbutting or finger pointing approach. So we build that relationship with them, and it becomes just a casual conversation. Your shoulders down, hairs down. There's no conflict. You can get a passionate architect on the phone with them, and they can have a little bit of sternness with them, but sternness is fine, right? You can't just bend over
Pat each other on the back all the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we are coming up against a few challenges there, but with the experience that we've developed, we're able, like I said, to pivot and be nimble and be able to adapt to some of those challenges.
Yeah. If you ever want to share notes, we're permitting about 15 deals in Houston right now that we're running.
Okay.
Harris County, Sugar Land, Conroe. Harris County is a different, it's a different animal. So
Yeah.
when you get into that,
I'm there. So
Give it to me.
the flood control department, we can definitely share some notes on a lot of a learning curve that we kind of overcame in the last few months. But anyways, yeah, nice. The one thing that feels good about what you're saying and kind of reminds me of the Torchies days is that you don't compromise on what's important. Especially I've seen a lot of concepts that when they start to grow and they start going really fast, they tend to cut corners, in an effort of efficiency and all that. But there's something to say about doing things right, honoring your brand, honoring that authenticity of what made you successful early on. and obviously we're biased from a design standpoint and a construction standpoint, but you know, not to discount the role of operations and you know what have you, but I think there's definitely value in doing things right. I guess what I'm trying to say, and you know, if it, like you said, the POA in San Antonio didn't want a small awning, so you guys spent more money to do a bigger awning because you were going to protect that runner. Right. A lot of other concepts would be like, well, okay, we're gonna cut that out, and we're not going to increase the size of the awning because that's going to be, you know, a lot of additional costs. We'll just figure out a way to, you know, make that runner wear a jacket and carry an umbrella, right? Because we're going to save that money. But it's awesome to hear that you guys are like, we're going to do what you know made sense for us in the beginning, and what's the right thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can get caught up. I mean, on we get caught up on details all the time. I mean, if you pull some of the finishes off the wall and look at the gyp, I mean, it's like hieroglyphics back there. I mean, it is over. You know, how does this light gonna recess into this tectum, or where's the transition from the cedar to the tile or stainless, and so on and so forth. And then at some point, you know, you just got to step back and think like, that's not going to sell any more hamburgers.
Yeah.
So that's where you transition and you think about operations, and
Yeah.
that's what's going to sell more burgers is the smile on that employee's face because they're covered and not out there in a rain jacket and
Yeah.
freezing their butts off, and it ultimately impacts the guests. I mean, the quality of the product, the P. Terry sells itself basically.
Yeah.
So for that crew member to ensure that they had that guest had utmost experience and built that loyalty, they're the ones that are going to come back. So.
Yeah. There's also something that you mentioned a second ago, which is also a common thread that we talk about, is building building the right partnership and building the right team, right? And I believe it's top down. So
Yeah.
you can't get the staff and the service and that experience without having a top-down approach, because when I go into P. Terry's, everybody's so friendly. It's real comfortable, and service is impeccable, and you know everything is clean. It's just nice. It's a nice experience, right? And we could talk about design and building all day, and how we hold on to these really enriched moments experientially. But if you don't have the service, and if you don't have that thing, you know, that keeps people coming back, then it falls apart. And building that partnership is really important, and that's something that Jeremy and I talk about all the time, and how we structure our work and our projects and even our contracts, right? And is if they're not part of our people, then we're like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna think twice, and it's a very difficult business. I mean, from design all the way through construction to development to putting the contracts to everything, just getting it up and running. And if you have that conflict where you're finger pointing and you're trying to figure out who done it, and that happens, but the priority there in those situations is how do we solve the problem? And if you don't have people at the table that can have tough conversations and own up to what they do, if they did it or whoever, but really focus on how do we solve the problem and move forward. And man, it's easy to talk about, but it's very difficult to assemble those people in order to do that makes us all happy during the day, right? Because if you just if you grind and grind and grind and you're fighting with the people that you work with, it's not fun.
No. Yeah.
And we all want to make money, and you know have our scale and do well and do the things that we set the course in order to do. But again, if it's just not appealing, and if it's a constant grind, your work's going to show it. And so, from a leadership perspective, how do you guys assemble that? Like, what's that formula like?
Sure. So so like for the partners around the development aspect of things.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I know Michael, and he's wonderful to work with. Like, he's just a good guy, right? And so it's like, do y'all? I don't know. I mean, maybe there's just this click that you feel that I think I'm going to work well with this guy.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. So I mean, you know, Patrick had the opportunity to work closely with Michael. Michael is obviously still. I'm not going to speak for him, but I feel that P. Terry's is held close to him.
Yeah,
I mean, he worked on our second location, and that was back in 2007. So just a couple of years after the first one opened in Barton Springs, South Lamar. So one of the partners of the firm, Michael Land, is our direct contact, and he's just a cool, relaxed, laid back architect. And that whenever I was talking about the details that would be behind the tile, behind the surface, it's him and I that are sitting there and sketching. I mean, construction manager would be on site, and I pull out my notepad and a pen. He's like, "Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
There you go. We're gonna talk about this for 45 minutes." And I'm like, "Dude, it's gonna be worth it.
That's
Just
right.
watch." My lines haven't got as good as Micah. I mean, he could be drawing something like, "Oh wow, you're drawing it upside down. I see what you're doing." But yeah, and with things getting more expensive, just the world that we live in, we have to find where we can find some cost savings, some value engineering. So that can be kind of difficult at times, but that's where that relationship comes into play. You're able to have that conversation. You're not putting on boxing gloves, but if for some reason you at least enter the ring, I mean, you can step back at the end of the day and be like, "All right, you ready for that beer?"
Yeah.
So that's kind of the aspect on the architect side. And with the contractor side, the contractor we're using right now, I want to say we're on store. I think they're working on their 21st, 22nd P. Terry's with this one that we just started in Houston. Yeah, they moved with us. They made the journey down to San Antonio. They're also on board with the Houston market too. Yeah. And I mean, gosh, I mean, if we went down the partner list, I mean, we'd be here all day. But I mean, there's 40 plus individuals that as a PT owner rep that we're communicating with. But the higher level ones that are the most impactful, not to cut anybody short, because everybody's important at the project. I mean, you can't get it done without all the pieces, right? The civil engineer, we've gone through a couple of different civil engineers who were unique and experts in where we are at that point in time. And we've also gone through a couple of architects. Michael Shoes is and always will be the design architect. And then production architects have been brought in the mix, as well as modular construction, which you and I have talked about in the past, which was a learning experience and quite it was a challenge, especially when you have an offsite structure, the operating structure in the end being constructed and then transported across the country, and then you have a local GC that's ensuring that they set the stage for this thing to plug in, more or less. And then I mean, it goes from there with your equipment providers and so on and so forth, MEP structural.
Yeah. When you think about that team, equipment, civil, structural, architect, GC, like what are some of the characteristics that you guys have developed with that team that have made you successful? Like what are some of the must-haves, and what makes a good partner to be on your team?
Yeah, it's the willingness to be open to understand what P. Terry's is all about. Every one of them's been to our commissary kitchen. We have a local commissary kitchen that provides many of the items that we serve on a daily basis. And they've all come to the office. They've done the tour. They understand the extent that we go through, because we don't do it easily. I mean, it's especially for the price point and the extent that we go through with these buildings, which are not cheap buildings either. So to really get them on board and have that understanding, to be able to have those conversations and be flexible and not just be standoffish and we're just another check that comes in the mail.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I guess that is like a global. Well, it's a point that's critical again, that maybe you can't always predict, is who's going to be on board, right? Who's going to come on board and believe in what we do and not necessarily try to alter it because they're seeking individuality, but who's going to be on board and make us better. And that probably is a key ingredient to really any kind of successful business group, right? That's trying to work collectively together,
Yeah.
and talk. But
And
Um,
need for them to understand the passion behind it. I mean, they should be proud
Yeah.
when after they do a P.
Yeah.
Terry's.
yeah,
I mean, it's a unique structure. It's a unique building, and it has a huge, backing behind its name in regards to support system.
yeah,
So for them to not feel that when they're done, I mean, that's the most gratifying thing with a project is whenever you walk it with Patrick Terry at the end, and you're just in the background and you see him in awe. Just
yeah,
every time, he's never surprised. He's always surprised. Rather, it's
Yeah.
he's always shocked, and whenever he looks over, he's like, "That's a great looking building."
Yeah,
and he goes
that's
on,
cool.
"That's check that box."
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's a good.
You know,
point.
I think that's, you go back to that first question, what's the ROI of design? It's like people perform better when they're bought into the vision of what you're doing, right? And especially if it's a really unique project. We talk about the pitch, that
Mhm.
project that we did together a couple
Yeah.
years ago. From the contractors, the vendors, to even the city,
The
everybody
city,
was
yeah.
excited about the project.
Mhm.
And you saw that the experience was much better that way. Everybody's like, we would have the SketchUp model of it that we would show at different meetings, and even that electrician that entry level whatever electrician that was out, all he was doing was pulling wire, was excited about being on that project.
Mhm.
And I would imagine it's the same thing with you guys. I mean, it's a really cool project. It's a great story. It's an Austin brand that's been around for a while. Everybody loves it. I can imagine that everybody's excited to be kind of working with you guys, and that just makes the whole project better. So then,
Mhm.
how do you create that on other projects? Right? It's a shared vision. It's trying to make everybody understand why we're all doing this together, and it's not just another paycheck. It's not just another job that they're on to make a little bit of money and go down the road. How do you think about that with when you're developing a team? Is it, I guess it's pretty, not to oversimplify it, but is it pretty easy now because of what you guys have built?
I think so. I mean, because I've been in the service industry just shy of 20 years now. Started at a barbecue restaurant out in Driftwood in 2006. So in order to, it's in your blood. I think. I mean, to have that passionate approach to all aspects and all portions of the project, and to just naturally be that passionate, upbeat, and just talking about it. Because I assume if you're doing one of these large chain fast food restaurants with a contractor's just throwing it up as quick as he can so you go on. But whenever I'm on site, I stop, I talk, and I explain why we're going to the extent that we're doing this, why this matters, and hope that they receive that message, and it then matters to them, to have them on board, and again to develop that partnership. So I can't think of really any instance that hasn't happened, that result hasn't had failed or not. But maybe that's a little bit of a broad answer because I haven't experienced that, but
Yeah.
which I'm fortunate for. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up your history prior to P. Terry's, because I was going to ask, but I don't know how'd you get here? How'd you develop a mindset that allowed you to have this big brain of experience and help develop this pretty wonderful brand, Austin brand, that's expanding? How'd you get there?
I have no idea. Yeah, man. It was honestly, it's a very organic conversation, an organic story. I'll try to make it quick. So,
But there's a passion there somewhere.
So the restaurant I was speaking of is Salt Lake Barbecue. It's an
Yeah.
iconic barbecue restaurant.
Yeah.
People come from all around the world to it. Not to plug them or anything, but
Yeah.
but whenever. I was there for 8 years, and for half of it I was a server. And you're not serving food really. You go in, you're on set, and it's just an act.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. We recently did a focus group on LTO and a limited time offer that we're going to be doing here in the near future, just this week. And I needed to go out and pass out some sauce. We had about 30 people at the location, and I was passing out sauces, and then just the things were coming off so naturally. I was back in my element of being a server, and even our director of ops was like,
pretty good.
Yeah, you're selling sauces. It's just a testing,
yeah.
like a tasting. So really, I mean, I would say there was a lot of learnings from that because there were so many diverse people and different types of people from all around the world that you were able to interact with and have those conversations. You know, because the barbecue comes out in 30 seconds, and then at that point they're there for an hour and a half. I mean, how do you keep them entertained? I mean, so. So working there with a good friend, Matt Batten, he departed there towards the end to go on to bigger, better things. And then I was sitting down with him over at Monty's on Brody, and he was like, "You ready for a big boy job?" Or because I had some changes in my life at that time, and I was like, "Man, not really, but I guess I can't work. I can't be a server forever, right? I mean, we want to continue to grow and excel and achieve bigger and greater things." I know that now. I did not know that's what I was setting out to do after that. So that's whenever I went for a project manager position at a local equipment dealer. They distribute equipment and provide services all across the country. And a lot of my accounts were Texas-based. So Torchy's Tacos was one of them. Luciana's Pizza, Voodoo Donuts, Punchbowl Social. A little bit of Blaze Pizza that I helped Matt on in the team. And it was a sales position really, and I really didn't know what I was getting into. Made some mistakes. Was very detail oriented around some of the responsibilities, and Brian. I mean, he set Matt down. I was like, dude, I don't think this is the guy. And then lo and behold, I mean, I guess I proved myself and really was started to take control and taking some ownership once I got my wheels spinning. And my other account was P. Terry's, and I provided their equipment, kitchen layout, design, and white glove service basically for their equipment package, FF&E. And Patrick offered me a position with them, which at the time the president, I interviewed with both of them a collective times of about 7 times. I mean, because this was kind of the next huge step. And Patrick, he even said, he's like, I mean, it's a big step. I mean, I'm sure it's a little intimidating. I get it. And so, man, that just goes to show you what kind of person he is. Like, instead of saying he wants to interview again, it's yes or no. I mean, come on. So I accepted the position, but I had a lot of responsibility that I was kind of controlling, and I couldn't just offload that to Concept. I couldn't walk away. So gave him like a two months notice. I let Patrick know I needed 2 months, and which, I mean, I was so excited. That was back in 2016, and I even played hooky from Concept and went to the pre-con meeting for Stand 14 Lake Creek in 183. And then the weekend before starting, I was at the NRA, National Restaurant Association event in Chicago, and Patrick called me and is like, hey Monty, when do you start? I was like, Monday? I hope. What's going on? And so the conversation was short, and he called to let me know, not for me to be surprised, on Monday that the president was no longer with them. They had parted ways, and on good terms, no falling out or anything, and still me being young and not really knowing what that meant. I said, okay, well, I'm here. Like, I mean, I all dabbled up, but dabbered out, and I had my P. Terry's green bow tie and some suspenders. I'm here representing. And I hung up the phone. And I let Brian know because I was there with them still, because they're still our equipment provider today. And I was like, yeah, that was Patrick. The president's no longer there. And he kind of looked at me. I was like, you're right. I walked outside the hotel room and I called him. I was like, well, what does this mean? Do I show up on Monday? He goes, oh, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. So I actually was brought on as construction and facilities manager. May 23rd, 2016 was the first day. And we were working on the Capitol Plaza location. And I had been present at those meetings, those OAC meetings prior, because I was representing the FF&E provider. So tables had turned. Matt was now there representing Concept, and then just like I said, organically going at it.
How did that feel to kind of reverse roles and be in charge of everything now?
Yeah, because I mean, he was always the better server. He moved up into management at Salt Lake and whatnot, and Matt and I mean, he graduated with my sister in high school. I mean, we've known each other forever. He's literally one of my brothers. So I wouldn't say that it was kind of going at it. Now, if you ask them, they will say, for a while I was the number one customer. It was a big joke, and so on and so forth. And then they started running all the newbies through me, through the ringer, because
Yeah.
I knew exactly what needed to be done, and you couldn't give me any of the BS.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're like, dude, okay, there's no
You're
tracking,
in
it
their
didn't
filter.
ship, man.
Yeah.
I understand, so let's not hide the eight ball, but yeah, no, that was again, it was all organic and naturally just continuing to move forward. So that was store 11, and combined with another concept that we rolled out a number of years back, and I've done over 20 locations with Patrick now. So, and then I guess it was 2017. I started to have the opportunity to join in the conversation with the real estate side. So.
Yeah.
So in 2018, he moved me to vice president of development, so overseeing real estate design, construction, and then it continued to grow. I will say, I mentioned Torchy's. That's whenever you and I first met.
Yeah.
Kinda. I don't know if we met or not, but we interacted.
Yeah.
We were at Congress, and installer was in the back of the house. He was doing his thing, had him all situated. And whenever I was doing those locations, I had the opportunity to be a part of several Torchy's projects, taken out of state, going to Colorado, Verts Kebab, then later named Noon. Did about 23 of those builds with them.
Yeah.
And it's always, I was very hands-on, did a lot of the installs myself, which was all great, because once you do it, then you can sit back at home base and be more productive, because somebody has a call, you just tell them what to do. Now
Sure.
you're getting double the work done, so to speak. And so I had everybody situated, and I walked out into the dining room, and like every project, I kind of just go ask questions, talk to the subcontractors. In this case, Jeremy was going over the millwork over the beverage station. I was looking over. Can I help you? He was like, oh no question. I was just seeing what's going on. It's like, we got this, man. I was like, all right, I got no learning experience today here. But
Was that an asshole to you?
no, not at all. But that was our first engagement, and then we started having meetings back at with Mel and whatnot and the team. No, there's just all great stories and great memories. And then, but I think the biggest current thing that I was able to experience and be a part of with Patrick is he's an open book. I mean, if you can take it on and execute and do a great job, by all means, like the world, like go at it. You can do whatever you want. So I think that freedom has allowed me to really broaden my scope and responsibilities and learn, fail, which is very important, just as important as learning, executing things, just makes you that much better. But yeah, and I would probably say very fortunate to land in some opportunities to allow me to organically understand and learn the knowledge base of the industry.
Yeah, that's an interesting, interesting pathway, because it sounds like you're passionate about a lot of different things, but you're mostly an individual that can harness a situation, problem solve, put the groups together, and then make it happen in a way that maybe a lot of people can't, right? So it's also a relationship kind of thing that allows that atmosphere to be successful. And I think understanding that power is important, right? And sometimes we don't, because we're just kind of fighting through the mud and trying to understand how to get from A to Z. But I think there is something there to recognize about you, right? As like you started from here, and you're really cycling up in an organic way, as you put it. But for me to understand like that nugget of information that allowed you to get there is really important. As a business owner and as a person that sits around in the room and tries to get people to move, like, what is that? Like, what is that carrot? Because everybody's different.
Yeah.
And when you have a staff of 10 or 100, or 100, it's all about people, and it's all about how do you move people, how do you lead.
That's the most difficult part.
And everybody's different. Every room is different, and in order to read that room is important, right? That's a skill that we don't know that we have until, I don't know, later in life maybe.
Definitely. But yeah, with the leadership aspect, that's been the most challenging part, which just diving in deep and then just getting myself out of my comfort zone and the difficult conversations are the worst. It's just like difficult. It's not that big of a deal, but you walk by somebody in the kitchen that's holding meat and like, hey man, we don't do that. I mean, like our fries can get held for 30 seconds because you got to dump it in a pan and put it in a bag before it goes out the door. But the meat, I mean, it's made fresh to order. So if it's on the grill and you overcook, hey, don't worry about it. Let's waste that product rather than serving it to somebody that's gonna jeopardize them coming back.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
What are you challenged with right now? Like, what are you focusing on? What are you trying to solve for right now?
Yeah, well, I think with the recent transitions of kind of being more involved with daily operations. I've got I mentioned director of ops earlier. Casey's fantastic. He's extremely experienced and does this so well and naturally. So I've learned a lot from him. And stepping back, and what we're doing is going back to the basics before we can implement new.
Yeah.
And the basics being we're doing a fry master class, which our potato process. I mean, it's a fresh cut potato with a particular potato that has a varying sugar content from the farm to our vendor to our back of the house. I mean, the sugar content could change 3 times. It gets checked each step of the way.
How does that affect the French fry if it's the sugar content changes?
Every 5 minutes counts. 5 minutes counts. So I mean, if they over soak it for 5 minutes, under soak it for 5 minutes, let it sit too long, it's no good. It's just waste at that point.
How does the sugar content change? Does it change from higher to lower to higher, or what does that mean?
Yeah. So potatoes, going into this part of it.
French fries are my favorite. Like,
really?
that's my
Listen, we were
favorite.
talking to Brandon Hunt about French fries
Yeah,
and how
I know,
important
I
that
know,
was,
I
right?
know.
Crinkle versus,
Oh man,
Yeah.
I mean,
tell us the P. Terry.
Well, I mean, the first thing that you do when you get your order is you reach in the bag and
Absolutely.
get a
I
fry.
know.
So,
My kids eat mine, and we're like, all right, come on, let's do it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been up to Idaho, which the family farm that we've always got our potatoes from. Great partnership again. Just saying that word because it's extremely important. Developed a process. Again, it's not easy for them. It's not easy for us. It's not easy for the crew member making them. But potatoes are harvested once a year. They're harvested in October, and then they're put in hangers, these massive hangers. I mean, whenever I was there a couple years ago, I was literally standing on 4 million pounds of potatoes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And then that's what's pulled from throughout the year. So here coming up in February, there's going to be a reassessment of kind of what the inventory is, and that's going to determine price going forward.
And so they're coming off one farm in Idaho. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So
how much of the how much of the potatoes come from there? Is it?
Yeah, so we
all of
receive
y'all's, but
all
is
our
it-
potatoes from there, but percentage of the country, gosh,
Yeah.
if
Okay.
that's a question,
Is it?
I can ask Keith that, and he'll know. But they have so the to get into that story. I mean, the family owned all of the land, and then now they're leasing out to farmers, which it's amazing to see. The whole
that's
family's
cool.
in there. I mean, the dad's driving the tractor, the wife's driving the truck because the truck's driving next to the tractor as the potatoes are picked from the field. Because again, every second counts with that portion. Because once it comes out of the ground, the potato skin hasn't developed. So the temperature change from being underground to exposed to ambient temp. The sugar content changes, so it's got to get to the hanger as quickly as possible, which a Spudnik piece of equipment actually transports it over into the silo. And the silo, they actually had an engineer go out and determined there's these like culver pipes that are particularly spaced out with number of holes in them, which there's these side tunnels next to the hangar that get smaller the further you go back. And these things are massive too. I mean, football field sizes. That's all climate controlled. So you got conditioned and humidity controlled air that are being forced down this little vortex tunnel off to the side. That's making its way into these tunnels, and it's conditioned from the bottom up.
That's cool.
So all for a French fry.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So then, then it gets tested when it gets to the facility. It gets tested when it leaves the facility. All these sugar contents, the densities, etc., are being documented and shared. And then once it gets to our restaurant, we do a little test, literally, and it's fine to share because I don't think anybody's going to go to the trouble that we do. Literally use a glucose counter to test the sugar content
Really?
of the potato.
Every
Wow.
potato.
Not every lot. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so we get 3 truckloads of 3 18-wheelers of potatoes a week from
That's
Idaho.
interesting.
Wow.
And so within that there could be one, hopefully just one, but it could be up to 3 different lots depending on what.
And if the sugar content's wrong, then those are just discarded.
It determines the recipe. How we
Okay.
prepare the potato,
Okay.
prepare the fry. So
A wrong sugar content is a high sugar content or a low?
it could be either way. If it's too high, then we have a problem. We have to send it back because at that point you're just you're making fried candy. So whenever you pop it in your mouth and it sticks to your teeth, that's going to be the sugar content's too high in it. So what you're doing
That's
once
cool.
you
Had no idea,
get
dude.
it,
This is crazy.
Once you're getting that potato and you figure out, okay, it's X, Y, or Z soak time, and the other items that you're adding to it, it's going to vary within five minutes of each other. So then you go and you soak it. So that's pulling out the starches. The starches are the sugars.
Yeah.
And then if you execute that, then you go into your first cook, your second cook. You're going to have a great fry. It's not going to be hollow. It's going to be crunchy on the outside. It's not going to taste like potato, but it's also not going to stick to your teeth. Or all
Yeah.
kind of a little bit of
Wow.
a couple of things around that.
That's interesting.
But yeah,
How do you
How do you-
decide what your French fry is? I mean, from my memory, because our first office was right across the street from the first P. Terry's, right
Okay.
at Barkingtown Village. We rented a little building, and so we watched that one go up. But I guess it's a process of someone maybe Patrick has an idea of the perfect French fry,
Mhm.
and then they go to the investigation phase and the process of developing how many different ones, and then coming to the table of this is it,
yeah, no, it's
because they've never changed, right? They've always been the same.
Yeah, so throughout the year, I mean, you do have rot that occurs because that's the one harvest of potatoes that's sitting in a climate control. There's a lot of variables and things can go wrong. So we worked with the farmer to we would have to sub in a different potato, which it's a little bit neutral on the flavor profile, and it doesn't hold very long. Hold for the guests once they have it. If you don't eat it immediately, it becomes very limp, loses its structure. So to alleviate that requirement to transfer to a different type of potato, because we use Burbank potatoes, so it's written all over our menu board, all natural Burbank Idaho potatoes. They plant a second crop for us. They plant a middle crop. So again, goes to that partnership and what they're willing to do
Yeah.
to ensure that we get that quality product that we're telling everybody that we have. But yeah, I was not a part of the generating the potato the P. Terry spec fry.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, equipment's changing every day, and we always have to be looking out to ensure that we're doing the best for our operators. So we've recently been going through. We've tested oil because oil is another huge factor in it too. We use canola oil, and we've been working on figuring out if our current spec is the right spec, and we're like, I mean, a fryer is a fryer, because I mean, we do use a Cadillac of a fryer. It's extremely expensive. I mean, you could buy a small car for the price of this thing, we would just think a fryer is a fryer. It's going to cook a French fry. But it's not. It's really not.
Sure.
So I've tasted a lot of bad fries recently, and we've dialed it in and in preparation for potentially altering our spec. But yeah, it was a pretty strenuous process to figure out the correct formula.
Yeah, I bet it is.
And I've had the opportunity. I mean, not only with the potato farm, but I've been up to Amarillo to our meat processing facility, which is, I was able to experience from from the lot trailer to the packaging. I mean,
Yeah.
it's extremely a lot of people don't like to see the life form of their food, but it's the fact and the truth. And the good thing about P. Terry's is we can tell that story because it is a quality product.
Yeah.
I mean, all natural, black Angus, never frozen, no hormone, no antibiotics. So, to our bun manufacturer, it's currently out in Houston, formulating a proprietary blend for our bun spec. And then, you talk tomatoes, you talk lettuce, beef, you're looking at pricing, you get chicken, Super Bowls this weekend, so chicken prices are up.
Yeah.
That all affects it. And then you've got Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day. That all affects beef prices.
Yeah.
So just trying to forecast and understand, from all aspects of the business and understanding how it affects the day to day.
What are you enjoying the most? You started out in construction and facilities, then you got the
man,
real
it's-
estate. Now you got operations. Like, what do you wake up every day excited to go get involved with?
Yeah, I mean, overall success of the company, I mean, I think is a really broad term, but the first thing I do, and I wake up and I kind of look at the performance the day before, looking at how cars move through the drive-through, to really understand the it about the day-to-day, putting myself in other people's shoes that are making it happen. But man, I think my bread and butter, whenever the feeling that I get whenever I walk onto the job site and being a part of breaking ground and then seeing it going through, you're doing your undergrounds and you hit the slab and you go vertical, seeing it all to come together. And after spending, 4 months developing the plans, the drawings, and seeing it come from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional, and talking about those details is really what I'm passionate about. Because I mean that's what I was comfortable with, right? I mean that's what humans do. They just kind of they follow that light of comfortability. But I like the challenge and being able to step into the operations aspect, or bringing the operations within my purview is also extremely rewarding. And I've had the opportunity to communicate with a lot of individuals that promote leadership, and they talk all about leadership and success, and to be able to share what little wisdom I have. I mean, I hope I'll never know it all, but what I do know, to be able to share that, to make somebody just a little bit better, or not better, just have a different perspective on things is huge.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that.
That's good. That's good. What tell me a little bit about real estate, like, and what you guys are thinking about as you go out to different markets. Like, what's important? That's at the end of my kind of run with Torchies, I got pretty involved in the real estate side. Not that I'm an expert in it by any means, but I thought that was an interesting Rubik's Cube to try to solve when you go into new markets. Because you could have some locations that check all the boxes that you think are important and still maybe not perform. What do you guys think about whenever you're going when you're going into Houston? What are you guys looking for?
Sure. Yeah. So
Besides traffic, that's
yeah,
the
right.
you know.
Who you're going to be able to sell burgers to? So again, with our unique concept, our local commissary here in Austin, we provide from scratch oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, whole wheat banana bread. You've got our grilled as well as crispy chicken burgers that are coming out of the commissary, and our veggie burger. I mean, it's made for, like, literally you got a box of mushrooms, break that down, and stew down everything and form it into patties, and you're shipping it out every day. So the logistics of it, being able to support from our local commissary, because it's a commercial kitchen. So to be able to do, if you got 2 restaurants opening up in the Houston market, you can't really justify that overhead of another commissary. So we want to ensure that it's within a distance that we can continue to support from our current commissary until we have enough flags planted in the ground to justify.
How far
that
can you go right now,
commissary.
roughly?
About 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean that's 3 times a week, if not more, just depending on the volume of the location. Because we do have all natural products, but we don't use any preservatives. So that's another factor into this formula. So we just have to ensure that we're upholding the quality of the product, and all the stands. Because right now our furthest location is like Petrenko and 1604 Southwest San Antonio out by Six Flags SeaWorld. So on a good day, I mean, that one's about an hour and a half, but you're dealing with 35 and 1604 and TxDOT's projects. So I mean, that can get upwards of about 2.5 hours. So focusing on the 99 corridor, that outer loop of Houston, you know, the first two locations are going to be on the south and north side. So we want to keep enough ground in between the two, and then focusing on that, you know, 6 to 12 o'clock positioning on the map. So that's kind of where we start. But then we also go for you know, trade area partners. You know, we don't want to go into. We have a particular demographic that we understand. That is the Pete Terry's customer. So we want to ensure that we're on their routes. You know, they're going to Target, HEB, Whole Foods. They're going to Gold's, LA Fitness. You know, what is their routine in their day, and how can we be inserted into that? Is a big portion of it. Cost, obviously. I mean, that's something that plays a factor into it. The easeability of developing. You know, is it a wooded forest? Is it a pad ready site? We do ground leases primarily. So is the property owner, the developer, whichever one may be part of that process, what they're willing to do for us. Because I mean, we do long-term leases. So it's nothing. So some people kind of, especially going into a new market, if they don't know who Pete Terry's is, they kind of get caught off guard. Like, wow, you want to be here for 40 years? Okay. Interesting. So, and then we also extend that because again, like I said, with our partners, they've all been to our commissary. I've got a master plan developer, architect, their designer. While she's going to be in Austin here in the future, she's going to come by the office, you know, and just kind of give our story and what we're all about. And it means a lot because again, whenever those developers are passionate about their master plan developments, they care about the community and what they're putting in as an option for those individuals. So,
what's the next 5 years going to look like? How many Pete Terrys are going to be on the ground? And like, what are you trying to shoot for?
What are COGS going to be? Is there going to be another pandemic? I mean, there's so many factors. It's a loaded question. But if we had the full reins and we could really drive this forecast. Right now, I mean, what I can say is we have 31 locations open, 4 under construction, one about to start construction, another that's soon to go commence construction, and then we've got 3 that are in lease negotiations. So at the end of this year, we'll have 35, if not 36. Next year, looking at 37 to 38. So probably in the next 5 years, we're looking at 45, 45 Pete Terrys or so.
Anything out of state?
No, yeah. That the model that we've developed, that the Terrys have developed, is a little bit too difficult to make that jump.
Gotcha.
You know, we were looking at even before making that transition to Houston and focusing on that market, where we're considering Killeen, Temple, and it was a little challenging. You know, it's off the beaten path. If we were to do those 3 locations, Waco, Temple, Killeen, if we were going to do those 3 locations, then they're kind of off the beaten path. We don't want them to feel like they're the stepchild that's never being paying any attention to. We've got area managers that have 5 to 6 locations apiece that they have ownership on in regards to ensuring the daily operations is executed. So to give somebody those 3, it's a lot of windshield time. They're not going to want to go there. Let's just face it. It's that face of folks coming from Dallas or from the north, rather.
Yeah.
The first one they hit, so that's the first representation that we're offering. So we want to ensure that wherever we go, that we can uphold our vision of brand and culture and provide that for the guest experience.
That's good. That's good. It takes a certain level of discipline, right? Because when you get kind of when you get out of Austin and you realize some level of success, it's like, okay, well, okay, well, Houston could be really good, Dallas could be really good, you know, and
Sure.
a lot of concepts. And I've seen this before where they jump out there really quick, like let's go
Yeah.
build the shit out of these things.
Mhm.
But they're not having this. It sounds like the same conversations you guys are about, like, well, can we really provide the right level of service and like really mean that,
Yeah.
right? So you're going slow and doing everything right, you
Yeah.
know, and growing 3 to 4, maybe 5 a year.
Mhm.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's manageable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want to catch yourself upside down on many aspects. Not only that, but with cash flow, et cetera.
Sure.
Um, and and if you right now, I mean, it's it's just playing the game. It's what's going to happen because I mean we couldn't do this without our customers, our guests. So we want to ensure that we're always giving the value at an affordable price point. I mean, right now you get a combo for $8.95, double cheeseburger, fries, and a drink for that quality of product, an all natural product. I mean, you can't find that anywhere else on the street right now. All the news that's going around, these large names that are jacking up the price, and now their guests are saying, "Whoa, what are you talking about? I can't afford a $3 hash brown."
Yeah.
Grocery prices are just skyrocketing. So we feel that if we keep our margins tight and we're not greedy, and we continue to provide that value for the guest and build that loyalty, we feel that they're going to take care of us. So that's what's going to allow us to continue growing
Nice.
in the fashion that we've set forward.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting form. I mean, especially the part where you're talking about the windshield time. You know, so you're paying attention to the whole picture, right? What allows us to create success or comfortable success, and it's not go 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 go. Just you know, but it's about thoughtfully thinking through the level of service that each individual that's going to play a part in it is you're thinking through their atmosphere, right? And yeah, that's I would imagine that creates the level of the success that you all are currently seeing.
Yeah, extremely fortunate and able to Steve Harvey said, "Don't say I got to get up. I get to go. I get to go to work this morning."
Yeah.
So
That's good.
so yeah, no, and I love that, and have a pretty routine week. Mondays, I sit in the office, trying to get as much work as I can done because Patrick's been out of the office for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, so his head is full of ideas. And, this past Monday, he was running around. Our VP of Finance said, "Man, he's on fire." I was like, "It's Monday. You didn't expect that?"
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
So you just like hit the ground running and not get ready for the week, and then knock out a couple of high level office responsibilities, and then roll into our leadership. We have leadership meetings. We want to ensure we have a pretty small. We're a small company overall. We really are. We don't see that it's necessary to just hire somebody because somebody needs to take care of it. It's like it's not that big of a deal. Go ahead and knock it out. We can all take on a little bit more responsibility.
Yeah.
But our leadership team of six of us. So we meet every Tuesday. High-level meetings with the contractor, kind of a broad view, and then throughout the week we have our OAC meetings, and then always keep everybody incorporated. Smart Sheets is a robust tool. I'm doing my best to sure I'm utilizing it for everything that it has to offer. But we have office meetings to ensure that everybody understands what's being worked on at a high level, how it's going to impact their day-to-day.
That's good.
Send that out to the whole company. That's something that I recently started doing. Just let's not assume like if we're having this conversation, then we're just assuming that it's going to get out to everybody else. So I just push it out there. So it's in their inbox if they want to be aware of what's going on. And then and Thursday today I've got a big my big meeting with. We always have the architect team, design architect, which is 4 or 5 people. Civil engineer, which we have 2 civil engineers right now working on the 2 different markets, San Antonio and Houston. So 5 or 6 there, and then we have our team of 3, and then Friday just try to clean up, get ready for the weekend. Weekends are always busy, right? Service industry.
Sure.
You see an influx starting Thursday. Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And then back at it, ready for Patrick on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to the future. It's going to be
Very good.
really good stuff.
Well, listen, Monty, we're kind of reached our hour. Is there anything else you want to kind of leave us with? I mean, this is a lot of great information. I learned a lot about
absolutely.
no,
Yeah,
Pete
it's
Terry's and a lot of
fantastic.
good insight. Is there anything else?
No, I think we covered most
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. This has been great.
Absolutely,
Like I
man.
said,
Thank
I
you.
learned a lot.
Yeah,
This is like I was telling you before we started. It's like, man, you get into these conversations never really knowing what's going to go.
Yeah.
And
Talking
and,
about
yeah.
organic.
Yeah,
this,
Yeah.
this
that's right.
is how it
That's
should
it.
be.
Yeah.
Comfortable and
So this is great, man.
organic.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you guys.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah,
Thank
most
you.
definitely.
Appreciate it.
Cool.